Megiddo. You already know Apollyon, right? The class for anomalies that will end the world. The ones that slip the leash, countdown ticking, with the Foundation scrambling to patch the sky with duct tape? Yeah, that one. It's Loki, the worst class, right? Wrong! Because then there's Megiddo. You only get this label once the disaster already happened. It's what the Foundation writes down when there's no containment breach left to report, because technically there's no containment left, or world for that matter. That's the whole point of the class. Apollyon means the end is coming. Megiddo means the end already came. And now, someone still has to file the paperwork, which, to be fair, is very Foundation. Even after the planet is gone, they're still somewhere in the rubble with a clipboard going, all right, let's just document this properly. The canonical example is SCP-7450, which describes 4 massive entities that ascended to godhood and in doing so triggered a rapid XK class scenario. The Foundation literally changed the designation from Apollyon to Megiddo just to make the distinction clear. When they had time to do that, I don't really know. Anyway, there's this will destroy everything, and then there's it already did. So yeah, life as a Megiddo SCP means you already won, or lost. It's honestly hard to say. The point is, the world-ending part is done, and you are the aftermath. Survival rate? 0%. The class was created because surviving wasn't an option. Ticonderoga. Okay, so Archon, which we covered last time, is the class for anomalies the Foundation could contain, but has deliberately decided not to. It's basically the do not disturb sign of SCP classifications. Like someone just looked at the thing, shrugged, and said, you know what? Let's just leave it be. Ticonderoga is the cousin of Archon, and the difference matters, because you cannot be contained. It's not we chose not to, but genuinely, with current knowledge and resources, there is no way to put you in a box. There is no box big enough, small enough, far enough, or clever enough to make you fit. And the best part? That's absolutely okay. The world's been spinning just fine with you out here doing your thing. Think of it like this. Humanity's covered in anomalies like freckles. You could try to scrub them off, but why bother? You're one of those freckles, inescapable, everywhere, harmless, unless they start poking at you. Maybe you're the background hum in every communication signal. Maybe you're the faint shimmer in the corner of your vision that everyone sees but ignores. Maybe you're something like SCP-4444, an extra-dimensional parasite living in a human head, phasing through walls, dodging containment, and casually interfering with global politics. The Foundation's watching, but that's about all they can do. That's what being Ticonderoga feels like, existing in a kind of mutual truce with the universe. The Foundation writes a file, slaps on the classification, and calls it a day. No containment cell, no emergency alarms. You're too woven into reality to isolate, and too harmless or too far away to worry about. In a universe where everything gets boxed, bagged, buried, or shot at, you're the thing that gets a file and a sigh. Survival rate, 100%. Nothing's chasing you. For once, just enjoy it. Maksur. Maksur is a containment class built around one very simple sentence. Do not let the pieces touch. See, when something's classified as Maksur, it's not that the Foundation blasted it into pieces, it's just that it came that way. Broken, fragmented, shattered into several pieces that are all still very much alive and very much anomalous, which is annoying because now instead of containing one problem, the Foundation has to contain several smaller problems that become one much bigger problem the second they get near each other. So here, the containment strategy isn't lock it up. It's keep the parts as far apart as humanly possible. I'm talking 10 kilometers, 100, maybe one on the moon, one in the Mariana Trench, and one under. Doesn't matter. Just don't let the pieces meet. Because if they come back together, reality starts complaining immediately. That's basically what happened with SCP-PL-150 in the Polish branch. Multiple anomalous instances, all kept far apart because reuniting them was considered an extremely bad idea. You can't destroy them, can't combine them, and you absolutely shouldn't get curious about what happens if you try. One breach at any single location means a potential full reconstitution of whatever they've been keeping apart. And they can't destroy the pieces either because they're anomalous, obviously. So, the answer is just keep them separated. Anyway, if you were one of those fragments, you'd say it's a cold existence. You can feel the rest of yourself humming out there, calling across the distance, always incomplete, always wanting to be whole again, and knowing exactly why you can't be. Survival rate? Perfectly fine. As long as no one moves the boxes. I'm serious. Nobody moved the damn boxes. Hiemal. So if Maksur is keep the parts apart, Hiemal is basically the opposite. Keep them together or everyone suffers. Hiemal is for anomalies that come in pairs, or systems, or weird little families, where the dangerous thing is not that they're together, it's that they're separated. Pull them apart and one of them escalates. Or both do. Leave them near each other, and somehow they cancel each other out just enough for the world to keep functioning. Which is a very unsettling dynamic if you think about it for more than 3 seconds. And no, this is not Thaumiel. Thaumiel is when the Foundation uses one anomaly to contain another. Hiemal means the anomalies are already doing that themselves. The Foundation is just standing nearby going, great, now we just don't interfere. The classic example is SCP-3700, two giant sea monsters locked in eternal beef, and the Foundation is out there trying to rig the fight so the ocean doesn't kill everyone. Separate them and things get dramatically worse. Leave them in the same general area, and they keep each other busy enough that the rest of us don't have to deal with it. So what's life like as a Hiemal anomaly? Well, you're only stable because someone else is nearby. Your leash is another SCP. You don't get to be independent. Your containment procedure is basically stay within emotionally unhealthy distance of this other nightmare. And if the Foundation screws that up, if they misread the relationship, separate you, or decide to intervene like they know better, the situation gets bad very quickly. The Foundation's job, in a lot of ways, is to babysit this awkward relationship. They sometimes end up protecting you specifically so the other one doesn't flip out, which is the kind of containment logic that makes the Ethics Committee reach for a stiff drink. Survival rate? It depends entirely on whether the two of you are still on speaking terms. Cernunnos. As a Cernunnos, you're basically that awkward middle child. Things the Foundation could contain. But today is not that day. You're not some untouchable, galaxy-sized Ticonderoga-level deal the Foundation can't reach. You're also not an Archon-style anomaly, where containment would rip reality, like cheap fabric. You're just expensive. Either it would cost so much that locking you down would basically bankrupt a decent chunk of the Foundation, or it would cause ethical problems big enough that the Ethics Committee actually flinched and said, nope, even for us this is a bridge too far. So instead of a full lockdown, you get a sort of soft containment. You're kept out of the public eye, maybe nudged, monitored, and herded, but never fully caged. The Foundation still knows where you are, still watches you, still files reports on you. But they just didn't sign the paperwork for the full containment cell. It's a somewhat uncomfortable class to think about, because it essentially formalizes the idea that some anomalies are out there, not because the Foundation can't reach them, but because they looked at the bill and said, yeah, no. And from your point of view, that means you're dangerous enough to matter, but not dangerous enough to justify the bill. Survival rate? Decent. You're still out in the world, and the Foundation's still alive. Godel. Godel is for anomalies that are not impossible to explain. They're just impossible to explain to normal people. That's the difference. If you're Gödel class, mainstream science can't account for you. But anomalous science, or parascience, in Foundation language, can. So, from the Foundation's perspective, you do make sense. They understand the rules, they can model the behavior, they can explain what's happening, they just can't explain it in a way that would make sense to the rest of the world without sounding completely insane. So if you tried to explain yourself to an average physicist, they'd laugh. If you explained yourself to a Foundation researcher, they'd nod, scribble some equations and say, right, parascientific interaction, makes sense. So from your perspective, you're completely coherent. Everything you do follows a set of rules. The Foundation looks at your file, scratches their heads for a minute, runs some equations, and then says, yeah, we get it. You're just not for public consumption. It's like they're treating you like a secret language, fully understood but deliberately kept off the record. They don't panic, they theorize. They don't call you a mystery, they call you a specialized case. Survival rate? High, as long as you're okay, with never being able to explain to anyone what you survived. The anomaly classification system. All right, stay with me, because this is where the whole thing becomes a little more bureaucratic. So far, we've been talking about classes like Safe, Thaumiel, Hiemal, and so on. But there's actually a bigger framework sitting behind all of that, called the Anomaly Classification System, or ACS, which is basically the Foundation admitting that one word was not nearly enough. Under ACS, your class isn't just one label anymore. It's a package of 4 pieces. First, there's the containment class. That's the classic one. Safe, Euclid, Keter, whatever. It answers one question. How hard is this thing to contain? Then there's the secondary class. That's where stuff like Thaumiel, Archon, Apollyon, or Hiemal comes in. These add context beyond simple containment difficulty. Then there's the risk class, which tells you how dangerous the anomaly is to people if it gets near them. And finally, the disruption class, which tells you how far the damage spreads: local, regional, global, worse. So instead of just Euclid, you might be Euclid Thaumiel, risk class high, disruption class global. 4 little labels that, together, tell the Foundation way more than this is kind of tricky to contain. It's like going from that's a scary dog to that's a very large, well-trained dog that can jump walls and bite through a gate if you piss it off. Survival rate? Pretty good. Mainly because once someone decided that one word wasn't enough to describe something that eats reality for breakfast. So the whole system got a lot more precise. Combination classes. And finally, here's the bit that makes experienced SCP readers develop a headache. These classes can stack. A single anomaly can have multiple designations at once. So yes, something can be Euclid Thaumiel, or Safe Maksur, or Keter Hiemal, or, if the Foundation is having a really bad week, Keter Thaumiel. And they mean exactly what they sound like. A Euclid Thaumiel is moderately difficult to contain, while also being used to contain something else. A Safe Maksur is easy to manage in individual pieces, but dangerous if those pieces ever reunite. And a Keter Hiemal is already a nightmare to manage, and also part of some delicate relationship dynamic that's holding a bigger disaster back. And Keter Thaumiel is the one where you really start wondering if the Foundation has simply lost the plot, because now they're using something nearly impossible to contain as a containment tool for something else. That's why combination classes exist, because anomalies don't stay in neat little categories. They overlap, they complicate each other, they refuse to behave. And the Foundation, being the Foundation, responded by inventing more words. Survival rate varies. Drops sharply the second you see a hyphen in the briefing. And that's part 2. The further you go into the classification system, the clearer it gets. The Foundation isn't just cataloging weird stuff. They're building an entire parallel science for things that shouldn't exist. Hey, drop a comment letting me know which class you'd least want to be assigned to. My vote is Megiddo. At that point, the paperwork feels more like a memorial service. And subscribe if you made it this far without needing a Gödel class explanation for what you just watched.